Good afternoon, Wilberforce. Good to see you again. Today I want to talk to you about someone called Tom Dempsey. He was a kicker for an American football team called the New Orleans Saints. And he's particularly interesting because he held the record for the longest field goal, so like when you kick it between the posts, for 40 years. It was a 63-yard field goal, and it stood for 40 years and was only broken in 2013. But what's even more impressive about this is that Tom Dempsey was someone who was born without fingers on his right hand or toes on his right foot, which was his dominant kicking foot. So despite his disability, he played American football, played 11 professional seasons. I've got some stats here. He converted 127 out of 159 field goals. So he basically got 252 points out of a potential 282. So did really well. He got loads of accolades. He was in the Pro Bowl. He was named an All-Pro, like an MVP for the season. And he did all this with essentially half a kicking foot. And he had this special boot, which I'll try and show a picture of up here. He had this special boot, which was formed to help him kick. Before he had this boot, before he made it into the sort of professional leagues, he was kicking barefoot because there were no shoes available for him to do it. So that is a situation he was in, and he was competing against other people and ended up using his considered disability to his advantage. I think that's an amazing story. When he was a young person, he said he used to get frustrated with different things. Like he was building something, he used to get frustrated and shout it, and his dad used to tell him, "Don't get frustrated. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you're gonna have to do it in a different way." And that was the mindset that he approached a lot of other challenges in his life with, but also applied it to his passion of playing American football. Interestingly, they actually changed the rule and actually introduced a rule called the Dempsey rule while he was still playing, which said that any player which has like less of a foot, they would have to play with a different type of boot, because loads of players thought that he was getting an advantage, that he was essentially using a sledgehammer of a foot to get this. And when I asked about this, Tom Dempsey said, well, when I didn't have all my toes, no one told me that I had an advantage, yet now I'm breaking records. People are suddenly telling me that it is an advantage. So he took it quite well, and the commissioner at the time said his record could still stand, which was great. Tom Dempsey unfortunately passed away last year due to COVID, which was kind of how he got a bit more publicity and some videos, which is how I came across his name. But up until then, he was coaching American football, and he had his own family. But his interesting coaching wasn't what he called the X's and O's, the tactics, the specifics. He had other people doing that, and he was doing it for young people. His incentive for coaching was to motivate and guide these players and change their mindset on how to approach their difficulties. When asked about his success, he said, "There's a lot more things in my life that I'm more proud of than my American football career, and the number one thing is his family," which I think says a lot. You could be quite easily drawn to reflect on having a record that lasted for 40 years, but he realised there were perhaps more important things than just those performances. I also spoke to Mr. Misson about this, who has a similar disability to Tom Dempsey on his hand. And Mr. Misson is someone who inspires me. I mean, I had an interview with Mr. Misson at Fulham Boys School. We both got the job along with Mr. Goldberg at the same time. And since then, he's always been a real inspiration to me to see someone that he never, Mr. Misson, he never complains about it. He never draws attention to it, apart from me putting it in his face sometimes. And Mr. Misson has also said it's something that's changed his mindset on things, and approaching challenges, not necessarily thinking that you can't do it, that maybe you just have to do it in a different way, which I think is just as inspirational. So please take that on board, and between now and next week, maybe consider, when you're faced with challenges, don't have the mindset of I can't do it. Maybe it's I can't do it yet, or I can't do it in the same way. And as we sort of come back to the new school site or start a new school term in the next few weeks, bear that in mind. People are going to be in different places. People are going to have different strengths, different experiences coming back into school life. And it's not about doing it the same as everyone. It's about doing the best you can. Take care.